Can you imagine one of the safest places for our younger generation turning out to be anything but safe? Schools, the very places we trust to nurture our sons and daughters, to shape them into capable, responsible citizens. So how do you even begin to process the horrific end of a loved one in a place meant to protect them? This is every parent's nightmare. October 14th, 2025, a mother sends her daughter off to school. It's exam day, just another ordinary morning. But only a few hours later, she gets the call no parent should ever receive. CTYC. Her 16-year-old daughter, Yap Shing Xuen, was gone, fatally stabbed more than 200 times, inside a toilet cubicle at her high school. At first, her mother could not believe it. She thought it had to be some kind of a sick joke. Except it wasn't. Malaysia had been seeing more and more cases of school violence over the years, but never in a million years did she think her own daughter would become one of those headlines. We see these stories online all the time, but you never really think it will happen to someone you know or to you.
A Form 4 student was stabbed to death by a junior at a school in Bandar Utama, Petaling Jaya this morning.
This recent news has completely shocked so many people in Malaysia, and the national news is still talking about it. At her daughter's memorial service 2 days later, on October 16th, 2025, Wong Li Ping, fighting back her grief, clarified many of the rumors circulating online. Scammers were trying to steal donations. Her family, already shattered, had to warn the public not to fall for it. Why was her well-behaved, sensible daughter stabbed to death by a male student, one that she supposedly did not even know? The teen suspect's identity has been withheld due to his age. But what caused this tragedy? What kind of hatred could drive someone to stab a girl 200 times with such brutality? After interviewing 148 teachers and students present that day, the police now realize that this is not a simple rejected confession gone wrong. Let's take a look at what happened to Yap Shing Xuen. Hey guys, before we continue, please just drop a like and subscribe on this video. It will help me produce more content like this. This case takes place in Malaysia, in Bandar Utama, a modern suburb of Petaling Jaya just outside Kuala Lumpur, about 12 to 14 kilometers from the city center, so roughly a 10-minute drive when traffic is light, or just a quick ride on the MRT Kajan line straight to Bandar Utama station. It's a well-planned area, clean, organized, and family-friendly. It's also home to one of Malaysia's biggest malls, One Utama, with over 700 shops, an indoor rainforest, and everything from high-end boutiques to bubble tea stalls. You get the idea. A bustling, popular suburban neighborhood, the kind of place where parents usually feel safe letting their kids walk to school. Yap Shing Xuen attended SMK Bandar Utama Damansara, often referred to as BUD4. It's a local public school in the area. She was born on December 22nd, 2009. She was the youngest child in her family with an older sister. She was the baby of the family. She was very good at sports, particularly volleyball, and was known to be optimistic and energetic. Her classmate, Adam, described her as very caring, always polite and helpful. Scrolling through her social media, you'd see Yap Shing Xuen just like any other teenage girl. Pictures with friends at a cafe, birthday parties, little moments that feel so ordinary. And just a few days before, she had won second place at a sports event. And then her life was taken away. And it was a supposed stranger who took it from her. It was a Tuesday, October 14th, 2025, and it began like any other morning. Yap Shing Xuen attended class as usual with her classmates. Her class on the third floor was already in session, and not long after, she asked her teacher for permission to use the washroom. The closest washroom was on the first floor, so she had to walk down. But while she was walking, unknowns to her, she was being watched. The perpetrator noticed her through the window, walking alone towards the restroom. He too, a student, also asked his teacher for permission to use the bathroom. Except, he secretly followed Yap Shing Xuen to hers. Unknown to anyone, that 14-year-old boy had come to school carrying 3 knives, all of them brought in, carefully prepared for what he was about to do. Although there are many conflicting stories of exactly what happened next, I will do my best to lay out the most detailed and accurate account of what happened. Based on what's been reported, here's how the events likely unfolded. When about 20 minutes had passed since Yap Shing Xuen asked to use the washroom, her teacher started to feel uneasy. Class was still in session, and bathroom breaks never take that long. Stepping outside the classroom, the teacher looked down towards the lower floors and noticed something strange. Teachers, students, all gathered, voices rising. A sense of panic started to spread. They noticed a male student in a blood-soaked white shirt, carrying a knife, wandering around the courtyard. Astonishing onlooking students, some of whom took videos with their phones. He appeared dazed and was casually drinking water from a bottle. He claimed he's killed someone. The 14-year-old boy then moved through several classrooms, knife in hand, sending students screaming in terror. When teachers realized what was happening, they quickly instructed their students to barricade the doors with desks and chairs. The boy's older brother, who was also at the school, he rushed forward without hesitation when he saw his younger brother armed with a weapon, and together with a few teachers, they managed to subdue him and take the knife away. According to students on the first floor that day, even before Yap Shing Xuen's teacher noticed anything, people downstairs had already heard her screams. Tragically, by the time the first teacher arrived at the washroom, blood was already seeping from under the second stall, and the door was locked. After repeated failed attempts to open the door, the female teachers seek help from others. They finally forced the door open and discovered Yap Shing Xuen unconscious. Her uniform, covered in blood, had lost its white color. Although the teachers on site attempted to stop the bleeding and perform CPR, Yap Shing Xuen had passed away at the scene. There was no doubt in anyone's mind the boy with the knife was the one responsible. Police believe she was already in the stall when it happened. She had gone in to use the toilet, locked the door behind her, just like anyone would. And then he broke in. To reach her, he had to climb over from the stall next to her and jump down from the top. Just think about that for a second. A locked stall, barely big enough to move, and someone forcing their way in from above. It's a nightmare. She would have been trapped. Can't go anywhere. There was nowhere to go, nowhere to run, and no way anyone could reach her in time. And in those final, terrifying moments, she never stood a chance. Afterwards, instead of unlocking the stall, he climbed back up and left. A few minutes later, at 9:40 a.m., a large contingent of police officers finally arrived at the scene. They found a mobile phone and several knives on the perpetrator and discovered that he had specifically worn gloves during the attack. After providing him with basic medical assistance, the perpetrator was taken to the police station for investigation. To ensure no other suspects had escaped, the police locked down the entire school, prohibiting anyone from entering or leaving. News of the incident spread fast, and panic followed. Parents flooded the school, desperate for answers, terrified for their kids. No one knew exactly what had happened inside. Some even tried to climb the fences just to reach their kids. It wasn't until police confirmed there was only one suspect that the gates were finally opened, and students were finally allowed to go home. When speaking to reporters, Petaling Jaya District Police Chief said officers had recovered 2 knives from the suspect and initially believed the victim and the perpetrator might have known each other. But as the investigation went on, those early assumptions began to fall apart. If the police information was inconsistent, the media coverage was even more chaotic. On October 14th, the day of the incident, newsrooms were in overdrive. Unverified reports spread fast across social media and major outlets alike. At first, rumors claimed that Yap Shing Xuen was a Form 4 student and that the attacker was in Form 2. But later, those details were corrected. Yap Shing Xuen was just 16, a Form 3 student, while the perpetrator, only 14, was in Form 1. Both had previously attended what's known as a remove class, a one-year transition program in Malaysia, specifically for students who don't meet the required proficiency in the Malay language. Some media outlets ran bold headlines claiming that the two were friends and that the tragedy was the result of an argument that spiraled out of control. Other reports went further, suggesting that the boy had a crush on Yap Shing Xuen and when rejected, acted violently. To clarify the facts, the day after the incident, police commissioner held a press conference, addressing many questions of public concern regarding the stabbing. The commissioner mentioned that this 14-year-old boy had previously received counseling from a teacher, but not for psychological issues. Rather, he needed academic help. So far, the police investigation suggested that the boy had not been bullied at school. That led investigators to rule out revenge as a motive. The perpetrator and Yap Shing Xuen did not know each other, and claims of a so-called confession were nothing more than a rumor. This, of course, aligns entirely with the later statements made by her mother. The education department initially announced that classes would continue as usual, but by the next day, only around 100 showed up. Over 1,000 were absent. Parents, still reeling from the tragedy, simply refused to send their children back, citing emotional distress and fear. At the parent-teacher meeting called in the wake of the tragedy, the principal struggled to hold back tears. But as grief filled the room, so did fear and anger. Many parents questioned whether the school should even remain open. They asked if the environment was truly safe and how they could possibly be sure their children wouldn't face the same danger. While parents were still hesitant to send their kids back, Yap Shing Xuen's family was left grappling with something no parent should ever endure. Why did the 16-year-old girl meet such a tragic fate? Both the police and her family confirmed that Yap Shing Xuen had never known the perpetrator, had no interaction with him, not a single word. And yet, somehow, he singled her out. Why her? Was there some hidden reason behind his actions? A motive that no one had uncovered? The case is still ongoing, and neither the perpetrator's psychological evaluation nor the final autopsy report for Yap Shing Xuen has been released. But by piecing together the evidence the police have made public, along with accounts from students who were at the scene that day, we can start to uncover some clues about why it happened. The police found 3 different types of knives on the perpetrator: a Filipino karambit with serrated edges, a miniature marine combat knife that's 18.5 centimeters long, or 7.2 inches, and a 30 centimeters, or nearly 12-inch long field military knife. How did he manage to bring these knives to school undetected? It's this long. It's practically a mini sword. All 3 knives were purchased online. However, during the attack, he only used one, the longest one, the 30 centimeters knife, which was covered in blood. The 2 knives he did not use held more clues than the one he did. On the blade of the Filipino karambit, he had written, in marker, the name Sun Hui Cho, a name familiar to many North Americans. And for those who remember, Cho was the Virginia Tech student who, on April 16, 2007, went on a shooting rampage that claimed 32 lives in one of the deadliest school attacks in U.S. history. On the other 18.5 centimeters long miniature marine combat knife, the perpetrator wrote Sandy Hook 2012 and Adam Lanza. He's referring to the shooting at Sandy Hook Elementary School in Connecticut, USA, in December 2012. That case resulted in 28 deaths, including 20 children, and the shooter was Adam Lanza. Writing the names of these notorious shooters on his knives strongly suggests the perpetrator was idolizing these criminals. Further evidence of premeditation came from the sheath of that same Filipino karambit. On it, he had wrote the words BUD4 and October 14th, 2025, and a few other strange cryptic markings. Of course, BUD4 is referring to his school, and October 14th, 2025 was the day of the attack. He had literally marked the day it would happen. Combined with the gloves he recovered at the scene, these details suggest he had carefully planned every step, selecting his weapons, preparing his tools, and choosing the timing of the attack. Even if Yap Shing Xuen had not gone to the washroom that day, he likely would have found another opportunity to carry out his deadly plan. The motive is still under investigation, and early indications suggest a disturbing mix of factors: antisocial behavior, misogynistic terrorism, and incel ideology. As for why Yap Shing Xuen specifically, and not another girl, there are rumors that the perpetrator's phone contained numerous photos of her. But this has not been confirmed by the police, and its veracity is unknown. However, it seemed highly possible the perpetrator had an infatuation with Yap Shing Xuen, a sentiment expressed clearly on a handwritten note found on him. The police did not publicly elaborate what was on the note, only stating they were under investigation. Based on 2 pages that have gone viral on social media, people believe they were written by the perpetrator. The note was written in a mixture of Chinese, English, and Japanese. One page read, "You will all die. 0 day. Everyone in society and school are just NPCs. For those that don't play video games, NPC are non-player characters, the background people in video games. 0 day is likely a reference to that 2003 film inspired by the Columbine high school shooting, one that left 14 dead." The other page is densely written and packed with information. The first line, written in Japanese, read, "Soda oku ga kirada." It translates to, "That's right, I am Kira." If you've ever seen the Japanese anime Death Note, that line will sound familiar. It's what the main character, Light Yagami, says when he finally admits he's Kira. In the series, Light Yagami finds a mysterious notebook called the Death Note. Anyone whose name he writes inside dies. At first, he targets criminals, people he believes deserves it, but eventually that power corrupts him. He starts killing anyone who threatens to expose him, and hides behind the name Kira, which, by the way, is just how killer is pronounced in Japanese. Phrases like "Kira is justice," "the hope of the entire world," and "I will become the god of the new world" all comes from or reflect the views of Light Yagami in Death Note. Light truly believes that everything he does is right, even when his actions are extreme, violent, and completely brutal. He wrote, "The one who made this world interesting is me. The one who caused panic among the people is me. Right now, I am a 14-year-old boy. What do you think, NPCs? I've completely won. Yes, I've won." Some believe the perpetrator was deeply influenced by games and anime, unable to distinguish between reality and the fictional world, using gaming terms like NPC to describe the real-world environment. Below, he writes, "It's not me who is wrong, it's this world. And this world is fake, I have already won." Followed by some scribbled out text. Then the line, "I love you, Xing Xuen. I will leave this world with you," clearly indicating he had been harboring a secret crush on her. No matter the cost, it doesn't matter. Victory in this world is everything. He then goes on to write Columbine, Eric Harris, Dylan Klebold, the names of the gunmen in the 1999 Columbine high school shooting. He specifically notes, "All the truth is in my phone," and even provides a password, CHX811222. He ended the note with his antisocial thoughts, more directly and clearly. "Trash school, trash society, burn down the school, take out all the school teachers, I will get revenge at school." There are no fruits of wisdom when trying to make sense of these messages or notes. Any attempt I made to make sense of it just led to dead ends, and the ramblings of a deeply disturbed boy who clearly hated everyone and needed help. Although earlier police statements indicated that the perpetrator had not been bullied at school and had no record of disciplinary issues, Evidence suggests that he harbored a deep-seated hatred towards the school, particularly towards specific teachers. This wasn't the anger of a single bad day. It appears to have been a long-standing, simmering resentment, the kind that builds quietly over time. So people began to question how a 14-year-old boy harbors such severe hatred against people, society, teachers, and idolizing school shooters not get detected or reported by anyone. Was his family not aware of his extreme views? What about his teachers? One can't help but think these could all have been prevented if someone raised the concern. On the day this happened, the boy's father spoke briefly to reporters outside the school gates. His voice was shaking. He said he was in complete shock, that he could not accept what had happened. He never imagined his son could do something like this. When asked about warning signs or what their family life was like, he said their relationship had always been good, but he admitted his son was very quiet, very introverted. He said he'd asked him about school before, checked in on him from time to time, but his son would always just reply, "It's fine." He did not talk much and mostly kept to himself. 1 week after the attack, on October 21st, the 14-year-old boy was brought to the courthouse, his parents by his side. The police formally charged him with murder under Section 302 of the Penal Code. Now, you might be wondering, what kind of sentence could someone so young possibly face? Technically, the law allows for the death penalty, but given his age, that's highly unlikely, even considering the extreme brutality of his crime. More realistically, he could serve between 30 and 40 years in prison, and even face corporal punishment of up to 12 strokes of the cane. Again, his age might work in his favor, possibly reducing the sentence further. In court, the defense requested a professional psychiatric evaluation of the boy, and the judge approved. They hoped to find an evaluation in their favor, showing the boy suffered from mental illness and perhaps wasn't fit to stand trial. But more importantly, if he was of unsound mind at the time of the crime, unable to distinguish right from wrong. This process is expected to take around a month, with the next court date scheduled for November 21st, 2025. In the days that followed, Yap Shing Xuen's family established a memorial hall at Nirvana Memorial Park in Kuala Lumpur. Friends, relatives, teachers, and classmates came to pay their respects, joined by government officials, including the Minister of Education, Fadlina Siddiq, and the Minister of Digital, Gobind Singh Dio. In a Facebook post addressed to the public, her family shared that despite their grief, they were deeply moved by the love and support shown by strangers. They said the outpouring of concern was like a beam of light in their darkest days. It offered comfort and a sense of shared sorrow. 6 days after the tragedy, at Yap Shing Xuen's funeral, her family and friends released 100 blue balloons into the sky, each one symbolizing her spirit. While everyone condemned the perpetrator's violence, many also pointed out something bigger, that for the safety of students, real change in schools is long overdue. Even before Yap Shing Xuen's case, incidents of school violence in Malaysia were already happening far too often and getting worse. And while even one is too many, the sheer number of these cases has led many to ask, what's really going on inside these schools? On July 16, 2025, a 13-year-old girl named Sarah Karina Maharthi had plunged from a third-floor balcony in the early morning at a religious boarding school in Sabah, Malaysia. After the incident, her mother discovered suspicious bruises on her body and a diary describing weeks of bullying. The public widely speculated that Sarah might have been bullied before her death, and 5 teenagers were charged with bullying in connection with her death. In October 2025, 8 boys were charged in Malacca and Kedah states in 2 separate alleged cases of gang SA. They happened at school, and it took place within 4 days of each other earlier in the month. We're talking about 2 cases of gang SA and a murder in these schools in the past 2 weeks. In 2024, authorities recorded 7,681 bullying cases. The Education Ministry's Director General, Assam Ahmed, admitted that within his first 3 months in office, he discovered numerous cases of schools covering up both SA and bullying. In the weeks that followed, security measures were stepped up across schools nationwide. Spot checks became more frequent. Pilot programs tested metal detectors entry points. Access controls were tightened, and schools began coordinating more closely with police. They allocated 8 million ringgit for CCTV surveillance. Over 10,000 new staff members were brought on. There were even discussions about imposing stricter rules on students' use of mobile phones. The government is now considering a full ban on smartphones for students under 16, hoping it might help curb bullying, reduce the negative influence of social media and online games, and tackle the growing problem of school violence. But really, will these measures really work? Will they get to the root of the problem? Or are they just a band-aid solution? Because incidents like those of Yap Shing Xuen and Sour Karina point to something much more serious. Something systemic. A problem fueled by social pressure, inadequate mental health support, and the ever-present influence of social media. Preventing another tragedy would take more than metal detectors or CCTV. It would take a culture shift in schools and in families. Schools need enough teaching staff, trained and supported, to recognize the early warning signs and step in before things spiral. And parents need the awareness and tools to notice when something isn't right, to ask questions that go beyond "how was your school day?" to really listen. What do you guys think can be done? Please share your thoughts.
I want an answer for my daughter. Hope this thing can stop and then won't happen again.
其实我女儿被捅的是200刀，她是200刀，她是 by step， 她是不是叫挂的，是 step 的，是从右边上面到腿部，我完全不用担心这个女儿的，而且她很贴心，她很疼爱我们的，她是一个很可爱的小女孩。
To quote Yap Shing Xuen's sister, "May the departed rest in peace. May justice not be delayed. May this world be kinder to those who are good." I truly hope Yap Shing Xuen's family finds justice, and that both families on both sides of this tragedy can someday find peace and closure. This is a tragic case, and I thank you for making it this far. I'll see you in the next one.